And Barbara Corcoran joins me. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great today. I'm happy to be with you. I love your voice. I love your podcast. Great.
Well,
you hear that all the time, I'm sure.
Well, we're entertaining ourselves, Barbara. That's what we're doing. Just entertaining us, which I'm sure is what you guys are doing on Shark Tank, right? And you even do on your podcast on Business Unusual. It sounds like you're just having fun, answering questions, doing what comes naturally.
Yeah, I'm having fun, but I'm very much aware that I want whatever I say to be helpful to someone.
Sure.
So I'm probably not as carefree or as confident as you are.
I don't know about that, but thanks. But flattery will get you everywhere, Barbara. So I think we're good.
Good.
Before we get to business owners, I've got a couple of questions where I want to, because not all of our listeners are people that are going to own businesses. Recently, on your podcast, you answered a couple of questions from people that are on the other side of the table. They want to go work for somebody like you or somebody like us. And they asked about interview questions. And one question I really like that somebody asked you that I'd love for you to share with us. In that interview, what is it that impresses you about an interviewee that makes you go, I want this person versus all the other people that I'm being interviewed by?
Well, as a normal guide, anyone I hire, I want them to come in knowing about my business and be infatuated with it almost. Like, I can't wait to work with you, whether that's acted out or genuine. That's what I want to hear as a boss. But I think what you're referencing, Joe, is recently I interviewed and hired a woman that I was not planning on hiring, because after I interviewed her, I thought to myself, nah, I can't work with this lady. She knew what she was doing. She was being hired for my top social media post. She was phenomenal at it. But boy, did she talk. And right before I was showing her the door, she said, is there anything that would stand in the way of you hiring me? I've never been asked that question.
Oh.
And I said, sure, you talk too much. And she said, that's what my mother says. I could shut up. I'll face the wall. I just do my stuff. Just hire me, blah, blah. And she sold me, and I hired her within the next minute. I totally turned around. What chutzpah to say anything standing in the way? I was the boss. Nobody's ever asked me that. I think it was a phenomenal, powerful move and won me over big time.
Well, it shows a two-way street, right? That you're going to have some open communication.
Yes, absolutely. And also it showed honesty on my part, not saying, no, you're terrific for the job. I don't really know if anything's in the way. No, I said, you talk too much. You drive me crazy.
Well, you might as well get it out right then, whether you work together or not. Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, but I think life's too short to not say that. Like, let's get it out there in the open.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you give out honesty, people hand it right back to you. And that's exactly what she did.
The second question that someone asked you that a lot of people wonder about and is a tough spot in interviews, the salary, right? Is it okay to ask, what does this pay and to start negotiating salary during that interview process?
Well, you have to play that one by ear, don't you? Usually most jobs you don't get within one interview. If it's your only interview and they're going to decide, you have to ask that question. It's also not inappropriate to ask what would you have to do to get ahead at that business? What do they value? How do people get promoted? Those are all worthwhile questions if you only have one shot at the interview. But most jobs take 2 interviews, and it's better said or asked in the second interview. I'm an advocate of that, because I've been on the side of hiring thousands of people in my lifetime. And when they're coming right at me on the money, I think all they care about is the money, which I don't know why I should think badly of somebody, but I think they care about the money more than they care about me and my business. And that's not a good priority here when you're interviewing an employee.
Yeah. Focus on them, focus on their business and the business owner's need is what I'm hearing you saying.
Definitely. I want to be flattered. I don't want false flattery, but I want to feel like that guy, if I let him or her through that door, they are going to love every day they work for me. And you know why I want to hear it? Because I'm a great business. I love people and take care of them. So I want to get that same attitude back. And it's not an extra, it's an essential for sure.
Yeah, it comes back to that two-way street. Okay, one more question, and then I want to talk to our business owners that are people thinking about starting a business. And this is a big part of your expertise is in real estate. A lot of questions that come in to me and my co-host OG are around this crazy market, Barbara, where people are paying $40,000, $50,000 over asking price. Is this a good time to buy real estate?
Hey, listen, if you say, is it a good time compared to 6 months ago? It's a terrible time. Compared to a year ago, the average house is selling for 18% more. Is that a good time? A terrible time. But you can't look at real estate that way. If I looked at real estate that way, I would have never bought the real estate that I now I'm very happy to own that produces a lot of income for me. What you have to do is you have to compare the moment of now to where it might go in the future. And if you're asking my opinion, whether I think prices are going to simmer down, you're going to get that house cheaper in 6 months. No way. The demand is so much larger than the supply. And that's why more than half the houses are going to overbidding. I mean, I've never seen that market. I've never seen these increases in the last 30 years in the real estate business. That kind of change takes a while to wind down. So if you're going to buy a house, it's a terrible time to buy, but get out there as fast as you can nonetheless, because you're only going to pay more for it tomorrow.
If it sounds like we're talking about the stock market too, there's always a problem du jour
probably
in the stock market. All right, let's talk to business owners out there, people thinking about starting a business. Why don't we start there? Is this a good time to start a business?
Hey, it's been the best time ever over the last year and a half. Let me tell you what's good about really bad news in business. People are open to new ideas. People are open to a new way of doing business, the newcomer. They want to see who's new, what they could get. Customers change as to the way they want business or services to be delivered, okay? They change their taste in product. They start buying things they haven't bought before because the framework around them has totally changed. So what better time to start a business when the world is open to a newcomer? The hardest time to break into a business is when everything is status quo, because the big guys win. They can outdo you. They can outperform you. They can make a turn. They can offer a better discount. That is not true right now. What the little guy has a corner on is the passion for his business that's always larger than the big business owner. And what they have on top of the passion is they have the ability to change. They think of an idea on a Monday, they can get it on the street by Wednesday. A big business can't do that. They vet with attorneys, accountants. Change is difficult for a big business. And so, yes, it's the absolute best time to start a business.
When I go in to start that business, what are the first things I think about? You hear about a business plan. You hear about doing something that you're passionate about. What are some of the key ingredients to a successful startup?
A lot of that's hogwash, and it's a common folklore out there that people buy into, and it's a shame because it misleads people. I think the first thing you have to realize when you're starting a business is you don't have to get it right. You just have to get it going. For every one person that jumps off the cliff and starts their business, there are 7 other people dreaming about it. They can't get the courage to get it started. So the idea in getting it started is just start it. So far as business plans go, they're always grossly overrated. They always have been. And yet, in our education system, people buy into it. Get your plan together. I'll tell you what happens with any business plan I've ever seen. The minute you get in the street and your feet are on the ground and you have to hustle, you have to rewrite your business plan. It's not even worth the ink to write it because you have to react. A business plan is static. You put it, it's the ideal situation. They never work. And so it's nice to talk about a business plan if you're raising funding, because those left brain kind of guys, predominantly white guys buying into businesses, like to hear that stuff. But in the real world of starting a business, it's about how fast you're on your feet, not how knowledgeable you are, how quick you come up from failure, how you could bounce back, how you could figure 5 different ways to skin that cat that the next guy just didn't think of. No, it's a really quick kind of almost like what do you call it, when the quicksand that moves under your feet? That's how business is. With walls in the way. And so what good is a business plan? I'm sorry, I shouldn't have just killed the business idea of a business plan. But you know what I really like? I like visualization. I mean, when I started my business, I didn't have a business plan. I was going in to compete with the old boy network, the rich guys in the New York City market. What could I have even put on my business plan? But I had something more powerful. I had an image of myself as the queen of New York real estate, with nice clothes on, which I didn't have, with puffed hair, which I didn't have, having answers to people who asked me questions. None of it was true, but I had that little movie in my head. And with that little movie, it motivated me for the next 20 years till I sold that business for $66 million. I'm telling you, no business plan, but a clear image of where I wanted to go. And I think that's not played up enough in business today. All my great entrepreneurs know exactly who they want to be. They know exactly who they want to be, and they have the gumption to get there.
Well, it's funny, Barbara, my image had poofy hair too. And look at what happened to me. Like
you still look good. You're a handsome guy. You're a handsome guy. You can get away with it.
Trying to make me turn red, and it's working.
No,
so stop.
No, you're easy going.
Keep going. Right.
You're fun.
well, let's talk about though. It sounds like what you're saying is when you start that business, you got to be okay with the pivot, right? You got to be okay with changing on a dime. Oh, you don't like that?
Let me tell you something. I don't like the word pivot. I mean, it's such a cool word. I think it came out of Harvard somewhere. Pivot. Okay. I have seen more people borrow money from family and friends, lose some money and say, I'm pivoting now. What does that mean? It usually means I got the plan wrong. I lost your money. Now I got to start something else. I think it's a horrible word. What I like instead is the nature of businesses change. If you can change, if you could roll with the punches, if you can make the best of a situation, it's not about a pivot, a new way to do business. It's about changing and anticipating what the customer wants. And now that I'm raising the customer, and I'm sure you're going to get to it later, but that is the subject of our webinar this Wednesday. It is a great webinar because a lot of people don't realize the importance of changing to please the customer. They think of it as a bonus, but in our Business Unusual webinar, which is sponsored by AT&T Business because they love the small entrepreneur just as much as I do, we're going to address how you exactly win that customer over, how you build loyalty, what cards do you have in your deck that a big business doesn't have, and how you should best use them. And so I'm just very, very happy to be included in that so that I could get the best experts in to talk on this subject so we could send our entrepreneurs home with a bag of goods that they could use, not theoretical stuff, but stuff they could use in their business.
We talked earlier about passion. Is that what you really should be passionate about, is the customer versus whatever the widget is that you're making?
I'll tell you what you shouldn't be passionate about. You shouldn't be passionate about making money. Every single entrepreneur I've ever invested in whose God was to cash out and make money never succeeded. You have to be first and foremost passionate about your customer. And the second person in line is you have to be passionate about your employees. And you know what? There's too many bosses out there that get going and what they're most passionate about is themselves. And you know what? You can't be in a service business, provide goods in a service business or services there without being really heartfelt on the side of the other guy. The other guys are your employees and certainly the customers you're selling to. And the minute you get your priorities wrong and put yourself front and forward, it never works. The reason I built a huge business so quickly in New York City against all odds is because I adored the people who worked for me. I would kill for them. I would do anything for them. And you know what? They would do the same for me. And people underestimate the power of that card in business today. It's never changed. You love people, they love you back. It's like a seesaw. It's what you do. You love your customer, they love you back, and they buy. And so that's really the name of the game. You just have to aspire to the right values, and it's never making monyour money.
Well, and I feel like,
Barbara, let me add one other thing on Shark Tank. When I ask an entrepreneur, hey, what's your strategy? What's your goal? And they say, oh, we're going to build this up to this volume of sales. We're going to sell to, I'm like, I'm out.
See ya.
I know I'm going to lose my money. It's a deathly sign. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and as I'm hearing you talk, when I asked about customer service and you immediately went to employees, it sounds like what you're telling me is if you treat your employees right, then they treat the customer right. And you only have two hands, Barbara, where there are a bunch of hands working on your behalf.
Let me tell you something. It was an interesting thing when I was building the Corcoran Group. It's an interesting thing when all of my businesses are building their companies. The ones that love their employees and focus on the employees, the employees turn around and love the customer. You can't be as an owner as you get bigger directly in touch with your customer. You might have policies, but it gets watered down along the way. The only way to deliver that kind of service that you are passionate about is to be passionate on each one of your employees so they pass it forward. And that's how it works. There's no other way to do it. I've tried everything. I learned that was the secret to success, is taking care of my employees.
Small businesses working often on a shoestring, and you look at the mantra a lot of businesses have where the customer's always right. Where's the fine line between giving the customer everything and selling the business down the river because you're not making a profit?
Hey, listen, there is a fine line. I'll tell you, I had a policy at my business when I was building that anyone, including the receptionist at the front desk of all my offices, could make a business decision. I trusted them that much until one day, a high-priced seller called the front desk, got Hallie, and Hallie gave him permission to reduce our commission in half. It was like $30,000. I supported Hallie. We reduced that commission, but my salesman wasn't right. So you have to draw some line somewhere. I went a little too far. Okay. But to trust your individual and make a right decision, that's what happens. They really make 99% of the time a right decision. You could cover the losses. And now I'm not even sure. Did I answer your question or did I get off course on that one?
No. You totally did, which is that there is a fine line. And I think you have to do the math. But from time to time, based on what you said with Hallie, the math sometimes doesn't matter. You have to give it away.
You know what? If you keep your eye on the long-term goal, making always the customer happy, it also enables you to put up with a lot of crap. Customers you can't stand that. You'd like to tell them to go blame it on their mother-in-law. You just put up with them because you know your long-term goal is expert customer service. And also the people that work for you realize there's no exception to the rule. And so you don't have to worry about quality control anymore. It's taken care of because you set it by example.
You mentioned earlier this fantastic webinar you have coming up on Wednesday. This is a good first step for a lot of people hoping to get into business. Yes. Tell us what's going to happen. And this sounds really exciting, Barbara.
What I really like about it is AT&T Business approached me on it because they share the same passion for the small business person, and it's heartfelt. So we put together a series called Business Unusual Webinar Series, and you can catch up on the old ones. We have a new subject every time. This particular Wednesday, our subject is how do you capture the customer? How do you create loyalty? Even how do they forgive you for your sins when you can't deliver the merchandise in time for Christmas, which is the great majority of people out there? How do you not lose that customer and keep them coming back? That's a worthy topic. I mean, most small business people are baffled by that. Like, what do I do? They're a little bit panicked, especially with the Christmas season coming up. That's responsible for usually 30% of all sales in small business.
Well, and probably even more important because of COVID now, right? I mean, this is a really important holiday season, I'm sure, for a lot of small business owners.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They're trying to make up for lost time. And a lot of them have ordered a lot of merchandise, put themselves out there, and the merchandise has not come. That's a problem. But you know what? If you tell the customer, again, because of that change in attitude to support of small business, if you tell the customer, hey, you're not going to get it on time, give them an early heads up, that's very important for them to work with you. And if they see you're really killing yourself to try your best and you're able to do that online, send photos of your workers, the smiles, be in touch with them, you know what? You're going to get through the holiday season. It's not as much to sweat about as you really think, but you have to get your ducks in order without a doubt. Your attitude in order more than anything.
How do people get to it?
Oh, it's so easy. 888barbara.com. We made it easy peasy. And it's for free, remember. You don't have to pay for this webinar. You just get the information, grab the good stuff, and run back to your business and apply it. And if you've missed past webinars, remember, they're all online, on demand, so you can just go grab them when you want, but do not miss them. We work so hard to bring great stuff. And I know we deliver because of the great feedback we get.
I love that. I love the podcast. It sounds like I feel bad, Barbara, because it sounds like you're not having any fun. I wish you were having fun while you were doing all this.
Hey, the older I get, the more fun I get because I don't really give a crap what people think. Funny how that works out, right?
Isn't
the only
one
funny? Who doesn't like me more recently is my husband. He's like, who are you?
Well, that's not good. That might be a relationship right there. Yeah.
He'll get over it. Old Bill, he'll get over it.
Barbara, thanks so much for sharing your expertise with us today. I really appreciate it.
Let me tell you, a lot of fun to hang out with, Joe. Aptly named your podcast. I love your byline. Really deserve it. I'm happy for your success.
Thanks a ton.
Okay.